What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building. I'm joined today with Kristin. Is it Geenty? Is that, or is it Geenty, or how do you pronounce it?
Geenty. Yeah, Geenty.
Excellent. And how are you doing today, Kristin?
I am fantastic, Dan.
Excellent.
I'm good. I'm good. It's a
Well, I'm
crazy,
glad you're in a great
ridiculous
mood.
time.
Yeah, sorry for talking over you. Yeah, I'm glad you're in a
Okay.
great mood, but I got some especially great news for you. I don't know if you're aware of this, but today we are joined by my very favorite member of the audience. And why is my favorite audience member here today? Well, obviously it's because it's a chance encounter where I interview commercial real estate players. That means deal sponsors, passive investors, operators, buyers, sellers, all that kind of stuff. And it's enough to make you think, why would you do that? And the answer is, if you've ever been involved in an off-market deal, the private ones that you're not allowed to publicly discuss, sometimes they're called 506B deals, well, you should know that the SEC is going to be very adamant that you have to have documentation of your prior substantive relationship, or else they'll get ants in their pants. And that could mean that they'll take away your business in the form of rescission, which is bad. So I have people on here to talk about their level of sophistication, their buy box, what exactly they're comfortable with, what they're doing, why they're doing it, and all that kind of fun stuff. And the benefit to you is you'll learn how to more effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate deals. But before we get too excited about real estate, Kristin, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Before we get excited about real estate, Kristin, introduce yourself. You'll bring everyone down. I'm Kristin Geenty. My day job is as a commercial real estate broker in Connecticut. It's part of the United States, not part of Canada. Some people think it's Canada. Connecticut is New England. So I'm a broker by day. My family has some investments. We own a couple 100,000 square feet of light industrial office, small garden apartment complex, and like little office flex spaces in Connecticut.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. And so the first segment that we always go through in these chance encounters is the 5 distinct motivations. But before I do that, I always have to say, but wait, check your 8. Now, Kristin, I don't know if you have the technical acumen to pull this off or not, but can you try to look through your camera and down into the user's device? Because there might be this big, ugly subscribe button that they really should do something about. Yeah, it's a stupid joke, whatever. Anyway.
That's good.
There you go. So the 5 distinct motivations. I've now literally interviewed hundreds of different commercial real estate players, and everybody has their own unique reason why they got involved into commercial real estate or why they're going to be making their next acquisition. But I found that even though they are unique, they fit pretty neatly into these 5 distinct categories that I have added right here. And the first one of which is preservation of purchasing power. One reason why people make a commercial acquisition is because they've got this nest egg, or they are making more than they spend. They really need to allocate part of their paycheck to their investments every month or a few times a year or something like that. And really the idea is to maintain that purchasing power. Now, of course, the thing that is special about people who have this as their main motivation is that they're not going to have to pull the trigger every 10 seconds. They don't have to do deals just for deal's sake. They're going to do it when inflation is eating away from the purchasing power of their cash flow, especially if they're work optional, if they have a portfolio that pays all their bills. But the other time is when they're getting a steep discount, like in an asset crash. Of course, everybody should try to negotiate the best discount as possible, but the emphasis here is that they won't pull the trigger unless they're getting that steep discount. Now, me personally, I'm not in that phase of my real estate journey yet. yet what describes me best is that I am trading time directly for wealth. And that's because I've got a background in technology, and technology is high salary, high wage, that sort of situation. And what hit me as I was chasing bigger and better salaries, I noticed that my tax burden became bigger and bigger, ended up paying more of the percent of income than just about anybody else. And so when I started doing tech work for real estate companies, specifically the CRM and online funnel stack, taking care of that and putting it together, I started watching my old boss doing 10 single family house transactions per month, and I was going, wow, I seem to be on the wrong side of the right business. And when he got into commercial real estate, that's when I was like, that's something I can do from the internet. So that's what I'm all about. And I get that that's a little bit subtle, especially for youngsters or something like that. What tends to resonate with them is they want to work like crazy right now so that they can fast track their retirement. Now, other people, they are similarly interested in controlling their own schedule. Maybe it's not so much retirement so much as just being able to pick and choose what you take time off to do. But that's a big reason why some people are attracted to commercial real estate. But the only shortcoming of people who choose this as their main motivation is they tend to think that everybody is secretly trying to retire, when I assure you that is simply not the case. Some people will continue to hustle into their 90s. They're like the people who are fueled by ambition. They want to buy their entire hometown. They want to make sure that their great-grandchildren never have to hold a day job, and that's why they're hustling like crazy. And I get that that's vilified in some circles, but the fact is somebody needs to not be asleep at the wheel. You need to maintain these properties. You have to stay on top of them, and that's why people who have that level of ambition are very valuable parts of your GP team. Now, the other type of person who frequently will hustle into their 90s is not necessarily for their own legacy or generational wealth. They may have picked a sector of society or animals or the environment, something like that, and realize that there's a massive financial component to making a big difference, and that's why they're making their commercial acquisitions. So, Kristin, as far as those 5 different motivations, what combination of them would you say describes you best?
I just wanted to be impressive at cocktail parties, Dan. No. Well, we self-manage our properties, so it's definitely not my time. I don't think about retirement. I'm going to be hustling forever. I think that I live like I'm in college, so I'm convinced I'm broke, even though I'm not. But really, it's my child, so that he has a nest egg. If anything, so it's really going to be that. Anything catastrophic happens to me, I don't care what anybody says, because there's always this debate. I believe that real estate is better leverage than credit. So, I have cash flow, we have cash flow, we have properties. If everything goes to hell, I have, I don't know, a dozen buildings I can sell. And even if I sell them at 50 cents on the market dollar, it's going to be higher than we bought them for or built them, depending 20 years ago. And I'm going to be okay. And then I can, I can defer taxes and put it into a REIT or a GP situation or something and not pay taxes on the sale. Should anyone have a catastrophic health issue? Because when you're independent, when you work for yourself, you don't have the world's greatest insurance.
Yep.
So I think I'm doing it for insurance now that we've really drilled down on this.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And it's especially funny because the next segment is on risk assessment. And I usually add up I introduce it a little bit by saying, well, we just spoke about motivations, and I don't want to seem overly optimistic. When you're saying that you're working for health insurance, I don't think you're going to be accused of being an optimist in that case. But let me bring in the tolerance for risk assessment question, give some background for that. The important thing to know is that if you're ever involved in a private off-market deal, these 506B deals, whoever the securities attorney in the mix was, they should have insisted that everybody involved fills in this heavily invasive financial questionnaire, sometimes called a suitability questionnaire. It's just talking about like what's your net worth, what experience do you have investing, what's your income level, all those kinds of uncomfortable questions. But when I was filling out one of these questionnaires, one question stood out to me in particular as being problematic or at least lacking utility, and that was the tolerance for risk assessment question. They have multiple choice answers, and I thought none of them you could really take to the bank bank or really say it's like, yes, I understand this person's tolerance for risk. So I made my own one. It's a fill in the blanks question. It is, there are many popular investment asset classes, but I think blank is too risky. So Kristin, it can be inside real estate, it can be outside real estate. You can give one of each if you want. What's too risky for you?
For me or for anyone, in my opinion, and it's like perfect because the answer is in the question, it's anything you can't tolerate. I think I mentioned, we own a small apartment garden apartment, 9 units. It's a nightmare. Like I'm not good. You have people living their lives, and it's like Melrose Place for anyone old enough who was alive in the 90s. And it's just this little soap opera of everything. Who's smoking? And they're supposed to only smoke under the pavilion in the parking lot. And I can't do it. Similarly, I invest and got my own investments. I almost was an LP once a couple of years ago. It was just and this is advice. And I took my own advice, which I never do, because I'm smart enough to know better and do it anyway, or old enough to know better and do it anyway. But was a guy I really liked. He made his money in a different business. He was a phenom in a different business, and he was buying some apartments in Allentown, PA. He was going to flip them. He was going to, do the whole thing. And I was like, yeah. And his pitch deck was kind of like, I don't know, he's a GP, the waterfall. I just, and then I started thinking about it, and I said, this isn't really a big enough investment for LPs. This is something where you should get family and friends and 10 or 12 people to invest with you at a small, and you don't have to be a 506B or any of it, and just do it. And so then I was like, I think he might not know what he's doing. So for me, the riskiest investment is being an LP in something where you, in a deal where you don't know enough about underwriting real estate, or maybe not underwriting it, but at least understanding that there are capital expenditures. You can renovate a whole bunch of apartments, but the roof is going to cost money at some point. All the HVAC units are going to crash on the hottest day of the year, and the second day of the heat wave, not the first. Don't ask me how I know. So for me, it's like you have to know what your tolerance is, and do not fall in love with people. Even Dan, who I love, there are like 5 people going forward now. There are about 5 people that I would be an LP with. I know them. I know their product. If it's in a different market, I can't touch it easily in Chicago, but I can touch it easily in Hartford, Connecticut, and say they've got the same product wherever they are. So yeah, risky for me is dealing with too many people and having to stop by apartments, and some people paying cash and blah, blah. It's a whole thing. And I think for a lot of people, vet your GP and vet the property. And if you don't know anything about self-storage, don't invest in self-storage just because that Twitter guy says it's great. And don't invest with that Twitter guy just because he has a huge account. Don't do it.
I love that answer. I love that answer. Now, of course, my next question, it's the favorite deal metrics. I'll try and keep it brief. I've got 14 different metrics that I use. I tried to avoid this originally because I knew that some people don't do deep dives into underwriting. Now, of course, anybody who does the actual underwriting, they might look at these 14 different metrics and saying they're all important. What are you talking about? But the fact is, even if you're not an underwriter, you'll still have like a top 3 or something like that. So for anybody who's listening and not watching, I'll read them out. The first one is cash on cash. Second one is IRR. It stands for internal rate of return. They use it basically for equity multiple. In other words, if you invest $100,000, what are you projected to end up with as far as your returns go as a multiple? So is it 1.3 times? Is it 2 times? That sort of thing. Next, you have cost per door. You have the net operating income of the property. You've got the going in cap rate, which is that's because a lot of brokerages, they publish what the cap rate is in a given area for commercial property. So just a back of the envelope sort of way what sort of discount you're getting just by the going in cap rate in that published number. Then there's the loan interest rate. It's especially important if you're getting seller financing and assuming a loan, something like that. Then you have the occupancy rate. That's the inverse of the vacancy rate. So don't get confused by those terms. They're just the inverse of each other. Then there's the average income where the property is located, the amortization period of the loan, the difference between the market versus the in-place rents, the population growth where the property is located to show you there's a little bit of additional demand that should have some upward pressure on rents. Then there's the sponsor record, which Kristin was mentioning a moment ago, but that really means how many deals have gone full cycle, how many deals are on the go right now. Then you have the waterfall split or exit strategy. In other words, is this supposed to be a buy and hold? Is it supposed to be a quick turnaround? What happens to your investment after your principal's been returned? And then the last one that I have here is DSCR, which is debt service coverage ratio, which talks about how much of the revenue is going out the door immediately just to pay for the loan. Now, Kristin, again, it's not an exhaustive list, so if there's something else that you didn't depend on, that's fine. But do you want to give a top three or mention a few of these?
I'm a basic B, so I go cash on cash return, which is I'm putting down 100,000. If this investment, barring any problems, returns 11%, I'm matching the stock market. That's what I can get a year. It's basic B all day. Sponsor record is not a big one for me because everyone can have a record and everyone can have a bad day. So I like cash on cash. I like cost per door. And it's not really here, but everybody who does this loves an upside. How much do I have to put in? But I like an upside where I actually go in and improve a building. There are a lot of people who say, oh, it's upside, they're under market rents. Well, there might be a reason they're under market rents. Are they, is it not in the section of town? Is it known for crime? So I like if I improve a facade, if I put in new kitchens, if I do anything, if I put 10 grand in per unit, what is my upside? So it's kind of there and kind of not. And that also is if I were working with a GP, what is the group going to put in and how does that improve? But I like physical improvements as opposed to just counting on the market to rise.
I love it. I'm eating up that answer like a delicious subscribe sandwich. Is that intense or what? But that's my reminder. It's time to pull out the Dan Does Deals Commercial Core Competency Cube with the 6 different roles in a commercial real estate deal. And I go through all 6 of them so that it's easier for you to not only know how my guest fits into those deals, but it's to help you communicate more effectively on a commercial real estate deal. Now, you might start thinking, hey, I need to get me one of those cubes. The good news is it's absolutely free. You can go to dandoesdeals.com like it says on my hat, and there's this big conspicuous button with a PDF. You click on it, and then you can print it out. You can show it to your friends and family and practice communicating because it really is a key part of your success in this industry. And chances are, if you're getting into this industry, you're going to start off as some sort of repositioner. A repositioner is the most public-facing member of the team. The idea is that they are the curators of the deals. They're the ones who are finding them and saying, hey, this is the one that we're going to take down. And you're going to underwrite the deal. You're going to do a bunch of paperwork. You're going to be looking at lots of different deals. And what are you doing that underwriting for? Well, first of all, you need to know if the property is making the amount of money that the seller or the broker is saying it is, because there might be a big difference between reality and what they say. So that's part of the repositioner's job. But now, one of the things that's most confusing about repositioners, or at least counterintuitive, is why do they have to have such a big circle of financiers? That is lenders, that is investors, basically people who only deal with the owners, the paperwork, and capital. Those are the financiers. They will not be dealing with any form of operations or anything like that. But the reason why repositioners have to know a lot of investors and financiers is because not only is this a very capital intensive business, but if you can secure cheaper money, aka a more advantageous loan, then that'll go straight to the profitability of your building. So that is one of the things that they're going to be doing to find that upside. But the next place that the repositioner is going to look is they're going to look at operations to say, hey, where are the Benjamins going down the toilets here? And let's do something about that. Now, of course, there's more to operations. There's a few different types of commercial real estate, so it's more than just collecting rents and mowing lawns and fixing toilets and things like that sort of thing. My spot in a GP team generally relates to my marketing and tech background. The tech part's kind of obvious as far as automating services and also doing web services, websites, and all that kind of stuff. But even even if you're like me and focusing on complexes that are 100 units or more, the bigger side of things where there's going to be the third-party property management, the fact is vacancy is the enemy. So if they cannot fill the units, then somebody with some serious marketing chops needs to step in and get those units filled, and that's generally where I throw my hat in from an operations standpoint. But of course, there's only so much efficiency you can find in operations, so the next place the repositioner is frequently going to look is to get a contractor team involved to renovate the place, make it nicer so that future residents will be happy to pay more in rent than the previous ones. That's the value add that Kristin was talking a moment ago. But the fact is, if only things were that simple. You can spend endless amounts of money on contractors, but it doesn't necessarily translate to an ROI, especially if you're doing silly things like gold plating the toilets. But if you're like me, and I don't know if you know this about me or not, but I'm from the internet, which means I need locals. I need boots on the ground, somebody who can be there in an hour or two, because that won't be me. I'd be stuck at an airport in an hour or two. So I need to have somebody else who can keep an eye on the contractors, make sure they're not using subpar materials, also make sure that the operators, they're not sloughing their photographs, everything's being done in a timely manner with both the operations and the contractor team, and that sort of thing. Now, the sixth and final role, I like to do a hypothetical to explain what they're all about. So the hypothetical is, let's say you are an attorney or a physician or a surgeon or an engineer, something like that. Maybe you already have a few rentals, some single family or Airbnbs or something like that. So you get this idea in your head. You see the 350 unit apartment complex down the street and you think, hey, I know how to buy a rental. I come down with the down payment and I borrow the rest. So I bet if I turn around to my colleagues and say, hey, let's throw in 100K each and we'll take over that massive building. So full of confidence, you turn around to the financiers, you go to the bank, you say, I want to buy that massive building for tens of millions of dollars. You don't happen to have, say, tens of millions of dollars you want to lend us, do you? And you're in for a little bit of a surprise, and if you're in some sort of mentorship or coaching program, I encourage you to listen especially carefully to this next part. The financiers are going to say, who's the sponsor? Who's the KP? Who's the key principal? Who's the key partner in all of this? And what that's all about is if you are a bank, then you take depositor capital and then you lend it out. And the idea is you can't lose money. So one way that they do that is they say they will not consider somebody eligible for a commercial loan unless somebody in the fold already owns a similar asset. In other words, if you want to buy that 350 unit apartment complex, you need somebody who already owns a 350 unit apartment complex to prove that you're not just going to borrow the money, run the place into the ground, and everybody just ends up losing money. On top of that, you need a certain amount of liquidity, and you need to put up collateral or have a balance sheet among the GP team of at least the amount of the loan. But if you have all those pieces, you got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So Kristin, you already gave some details about how you are a sponsor on your own deals. You do a lot of self-management, and there's also some broker elements and all that. What roles do you anticipate in your upcoming deals?
Probably the last one, number 6 first, the key principle.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
I'm in a family business. I'm a Gen X, which means like we try to avoid really being labeled. So I'm like, Ted, you're still breathing? Okay. So, but in daily, not marketing, operations. It's really, it's the face, it's the repositioner, and it's the operations. And I'm not going out and fixing toilets. I have local contractors who do that.
I love that answer. So let's talk about the buy box. You've already given some details about that. The 3 main things that we're talking about when real estate people are asking, hey, what you looking for? First one's geography. Where is it? Which state, which county, possibly even which neighborhood? It's going to matter. Second one's going to be size. Now, of course, if you're talking a residential, multifamily, commercial real estate, then we tend to go by unit count. In other words, the number of apartment units to define the size. And the reason why it's relevant is because the type of team that takes over 6 and 10 and 15 unit apartment complexes, they're going to be fundamentally different from the ones that are taking over 100, 150 and so on. So that size matters. Now, of course, Kristin already mentioned industrial, self-storage. There are other types of commercial real estate out there. Some of them go by square footage, some of them go by acreage, but that size constraint is still important. It's still going to matter as far as what your ideal property looks like. Now, the third one, though, is usually called class. I don't like the term class because because it's only one thing, or at least it sounds like it, but class is actually two things, so I like to call it desirability. And I split them up into the condition and the area. If you're talking about condition, how old is it? How beat up is it? How recently renovated is it? What sort of luxuries and amenities are included for anybody who's a resident or there is leasing that property? That's the condition. If you're talking about area, the crime rate is always going to matter as far as desirability goes. If you are talking about multifamily like apartment complexes, then the school districts are going to be relevant, whereas with industrial, it's not going to be really a concern. But the main idea about the area is the old broker trope of saying location, 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 when what I think they actually mean is traffic, traffic, traffic. If a gazillion people pass by this property every single day, then there's going to be more desirability baked in than a place that's basically crickets. But both the area and the condition are ranked the same way as in grade school, where you have A plus at the top, and then A minus, then B plus, and so on. So Kristin, where's the sweet spot as far as future acquisition?
I mentioned, I can talk apartments, but not really, because I can't. I just I have PTSD from apartment ownership. So light industrial flex. Condition wise, I like a G as in dog. No, as long as it's not contaminated, but sort of a mid and a desirable area. In industrial, I'll try to do this quickly because it's so different than you've been speaking about. But in industrial, it's about distance to employees. You're still looking at population and traffic, but where there are big pockets of employees. And industrial, it's not just like big old manufacturing. It's really, a lot of it is assembly, high tech. I hate that phrase because it's from 1982, but it's like stuck in my head. So, assembly, niche, super niche manufacturing. I was recently looking at a property that we didn't go forward on, and I'm so sad. And it was my decision not to go forward. But it's 60,000 square feet on, I think, 9 acres, which is like great for me. In light industrial, suburban light industrial, I like 50 to 100 multi-tenant. This was not a multi-tenant, but it could be broken up into multi-tenant, though when you're dealing with sort of a flex light industrial, and flex is generally clear span, 14 to 18 foot ceilings to 22. In New England, it's really 14 to 18. You don't want 14 or 16 foot ceilings. You want 18 to 30. But we don't have a lot of that stock. We have older stock. And I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole, so I'm going to stop myself. And separating utilities and industrial is among the most expensive things that you can do, but there are ways you can structure your leases and not get around it, but sub-meter it, blah, blah, blah. No one cares. I've gone too deep. So my buy box is mid-range, small, light industrial, suburban light industrial properties with ample parking for if it turns into a daycare and office. In some cases, like a co-living, co-working, I've actually seen. So more parking than is necessary. So I like 9 to 11 acres for, 60,000 square feet. And I like a great location with a worser condition, because condition can always be improved. Location can't. And I forget what the third thing was, because I was trying not to go down holes, but I think I hit it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's Connecticut is the sweet spot for sure. Like any particular city?
The shoreline, the eastern shoreline. So New Haven is sort of midway in Connecticut. A lot of people know Greenwich, Fairfield. That's closer to New York. New Haven, there's a college there that some people have heard about. It's not Southern Connecticut. No, that's where Yale is. And then up to New London and the Rhode Island border, and inland maybe 30 miles. And it's just because, I don't know, I just like that. There's no good reason. Like I said, I'm super basic. Like, I like to drive on the beach roads. I like to stop and have a lobster roll. So would I buy in Maine? Yeah, around Portland, I would.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's about the scenery. But let's talk about people then. So the next question, like, again, I mentioned before that real estate is such a capital intensive industry. Everybody needs to meet more financiers, more people who are looking from the investment side, and I'm no different from that one. But of course, with my technical background and all that kind of stuff, I do tend to try and attract sponsors and KPs because they've got the real estate business all dialed up. And if you're from the internet like me, I'm more of a fuel to the fire person rather than starting from zero sort of person. So that's who I'm eager to speak to. Who's out there in the internet that you're most eager to speak to there, Kristin?
I'm eager to speak to people. Oh God, this is a toughie because anything I say is not going to sound complimentary. Mentors, I love people who speak in jargon. Financiers, because as I mentioned, I'm a broker by day. I have a huge pool. I don't know, people get offended when you say this, but money is easy to find. Deals are hard to find. So if I'm looking for people, because I do a lot of this light industrial stuff, which tends to be owner occupied, my thing is finding people who are previously KPs and want to get out of the business.
I love that answer. And so I'm sure there are plenty of people thinking, how do I reach out? I'll sandbag that for a second, talk about myself. I'm fortunate enough to have this really distinct last name here, which makes it really easy to find me online. LinkedIn is the platform where I spend most of my social media time, so please do make sure that you connect with me on there or follow or whatever it gives you. You already know about the dandoesdeals.com with the other episodes of Chance Encounters. If you are a chess fiend, you might like Chess with Investors, where I have similar conversations to this, but it's over a live game of chess. And then lastly, this QR code, that is for my Amazon author page, where I've got a few different books on different business skill building topics, so you can check those as well. But Kristin, if people want to reach out to you, what are the best ways?
Well, my name is there, KT Geenty. If you do Geenty in real estate, we're the only ones. No one can pronounce it. Nobody can spell it. So it's really important that Kevin C. Geenty, SIOR, retired, named the company the Geenty Group, which sounds like some sort of group of diseases that's just going to attack your liver. But that's not the point. If you do Geenty commercial real estate, you will find me or my father, or you will find us, because the other Geentys, one's an artist, another guy's a footballer. They're all in Scotland, New Zealand, Australia, England, Ireland. So it's the easiest way. GEENTY/Google/CRE. We should come up.
Right.
I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter at KTGCRE. My Instagram is unhinged, but it's Kristin Geenty. I'm pretty Googleable.
Googleable. Yeah.
Googleable.
I love that. Yeah.
Having grown up in the era of never talk to strangers, don't let anyone know your name, don't talk to. This is like really hard for us Xers. I'm not going to lie.
No kidding. Yeah. I valued my privacy like you wouldn't believe, so that's definitely good. But it's good to know that you're the Geenty that doesn't talk funny. But on the next subject, the last and final bit, it's actually not for you, Kristin, it's for you in the audience. It's the public service announcement that I always do, which is, if you've been watching this episode and experiencing searing pains in your eyeballs, maybe like migraine-like symptoms, I am highly confident it's due to the downright hideous subscribe button that you probably didn't hit yet. You know, Kristin was mentioning being a Gen Xer. If you've got any kids in the house and they see that you're not subscribed, they will judge you. I'm not sure if you want that in life. Full disclosure, all it really means is that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions. I want a whole bunch of people to click on it so those deadbeats at YouTube start to pay for these videos instead of me. But you can go ahead and ignore those other video suggestions. I just really appreciate the fact you spent this time with me. Just like Kristin. This was great.
Thanks.
Awesome. Let's go. Hey there. Are you interested in commercial real estate deals? Would you like to build your network of investors and deal sponsors? Well, the best thing I can do for you is have you appear on a Chance Encounter interview as featured on dandoesdeals.com. You may know me from 506BME or as a top commercial real estate voice on LinkedIn. And if I had to think of the top factors in your success in commercial real estate, my top two would be your network and your ability to effectively explain how deals work with effective communication. The 15-minute Chance Encounter format, it checks both of those boxes, and they ensure that you can share your private deals with me without the SEC calling it a public solicitation. So hop onto LinkedIn. You can see my name is over here, Dan Friedenberg, and search for my name. And the best way to reach me and book that is to message me through LinkedIn. And don't worry, it doesn't matter if you decided to enter this space just last week or 2 weeks ago, or if it was decades ago. It'll be fun and easy to look good. We're just asking multiple choice questions based on your core competencies you look to contribute, your level of sophistication, all that kind of stuff. So I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.